right, and this will take us to the situation in Ukraine, where a number of us have been fixated. In fact, the entire world has been fixated, not just by the crisis which has turned into a war which has rendered several millions of people now homeless, and also sent a number of Nigerians who have been in diaspora also out of that country, because they can no longer continue with their education or their businesses or reside there. Many of them to neighboring countries, others have had to find their way back to Nigeria. And that's where Blessing Emuobosa has stepped in with what she's doing in letting us know about those Nigerians who have been affected and what her organization, FSNAid, is doing to help their situations get better. And some really interesting and remarkable stories we've been hearing. And by the way, the Ukrainian president was briefing the African Union just a couple of days ago, telling them what they should do to help his country, because the crisis affecting the African continent, food and all of that, is also being powered and fueled by that crisis. Millions of tons of grains cannot be exported out of Ukraine because of what is going on there. So we have some students who have also been affected by this story, and we'll get to them in a short while. We have Egbevurie Tega, who joins us from Delta State, a third-year medical student. And we're going to start Egbevurie Tega, rather, that you are in Luxembourg, right?
Yes, I am in Luxembourg.
Thank you very much for joining us. And quite a number of medical students we see who have been in Ukraine who have had to have left. So talk to us, Tega, all the way from Nigeria into Ukraine, now in Luxembourg. This has been some journey for you.
Yes, of course. It's been a very tiresome journey. It's even been a lot to process, because we know what we passed through ever since we left Ukraine when the war started on the 24th of February. And also the inhumane conditions we were meant to face during the crossing of the border, because I left Ukraine through the Polish border, and I can tell you that there is no other worse experience I've had in my life since I was given birth to, because we were made to stand in lines that you can't even see the end. There was no means of feeding. We couldn't even use the bathroom, no toilets. You can see all around the border scattered boxes, luggages. People lost a lot. And really, no one really understands what we've been made to pass through ever since we left Ukraine, because we never really expected that our lives will face this kind of detour. You know, all of us, we had a plan. Like as for myself, I was studying in Venezia Medical University, and I already envisioned myself graduating, getting my degree, being able to get a career in the medical field. But all those has been placed on hold due to the fact that the war started. And ever since then, it has just been one scenario to the other, because when I left Ukraine, I left with absolutely nothing. My bags are still in Ukraine, my documents still in the school, and even right now, we don't even have access to those documents, because we are hearing information about them destroying schools, bombing schools. And when you think about that, this is your life. This is what you've invested in, both time, energy, and everything just gone, just like that. And we are foreigners in this country, because right now, as I'm in Luxembourg, we're trying to look for ways to survive, ways to continue education, because it's not just about sitting. We actually had a plan that made us leave Nigeria to come get better form of education. But due to the fact that everything has been disrupted, what do we do next? You know, every time I wake up, I get really disorientated, not just from the trauma I faced while I was leaving Ukraine, but also from the fact that I don't even know the next step from right here where I am right now, because I don't know if I'll be able to go back to school, because no school is even willing to accept us after now, because we're trying to find a system that works, something that can at least assist us to achieve this in which we set out to achieve. You know, the best investment I feel anyone can invest in themselves is actually setting out to get good, proper education and using it to fulfill their dreams, using it to fulfill whatsoever they've planned on doing. And all this has been actually cut short. We're looking for anyone who is willing to help us, not just myself, but others as well. So it's really been a very heartbreaking journey. We're still looking for more assistance from the Nigerian government, and also me being an indigene of Delta State, also from the Delta State government.
Well, we commiserate with you, Tega, on your experience, and we've talked to people like you, and that's why this window is open to talk to even much more in days, weeks, and who knows, we want it to end, we want everybody to be fine, and then we can put it behind us. But you just said now that the environment you are is not as friendly as it should be for people hate to say this, a refugee, because I want to imagine that that's what you'll be referred to there. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But now also, what information do you have with regard to your school in particular as to the safety of your academic records, which could then help you get your transcript to move ahead? That's one. Then add it, because the 3-1 question. You also say, you said that it's difficult for you to get admission where you are. What do you intend to do if, for instance, the way to get your transcript is as difficult as you just mentioned a while ago?
Okay, so the issue about the transcripts, we've actually gotten an information, or rather, I have actually gotten information from my school. And what they are proposing is that we even come back to the country and continue offline mode of study, which it's really absurd, because we left it because we felt unsafe, we felt insecure, and you're telling us we should come back to offline mode of studying on the 1st of September, which is really a joke. And what they placed out is that for us to get your transcript, if you want your transcript, your documents from the school, hence you are trying to say that before you get it, you have to be expelled. That is the law the school placed in. So if you want to get your transcript, it means you are willing to accept to be expelled. So the way they make us feel is as if we were the ones who actually started this war. And as for the case of admission, in most of the European countries, the course of medicine is not really studied in English language. So we have the language barrier being part of the issues we're facing in getting admissions. And we also have the issue of funds. There was a school that I actually reached out to in Romania, and the first condition, the first criteria they gave is for you to sign a contract of how much you are meant to be paying for fees. And it was, when I even saw the amount, it was overwhelming, because here their currency, they usually spend in euros, which is quite different from what we were spending in Ukraine. So, even to only get accepted, we're not even talking about the normal processes of registering and the rest. Just to get accepted, you have to pay at least 3,000 euros just to get accepted. So what if you don't get accepted? What happens to the money you've initially paid? Understand? And many of us, most people left their lives in Ukraine. Most people were sponsoring themselves. So how do you expect them? They have no jobs in this current condition. We have no jobs in this current condition we're in. We have no form of proper legal status. We're still trying to fight for that. And you're telling me, okay, bring this amount of money if you want us to let you get admitted to schools here. And I see that that's not even what most of Ukrainian citizens who come up face.
Right, Tega, so exactly. And thank you very much for a lot of the stuff you're telling us, because a lot is new to us, and it also exposes us to what is happening behind the scenes there also too. But Blessing Emuobosa joins us now. It's always a pleasure to have Blessing with us. It's our organization behind a lot of what you're seeing going on here, and a lot of the resource people who come in here. Blessing, great to have you. And interestingly, this week I've heard a number of things. I heard the Ukrainian president talk to the African Union, talk about how much African countries, especially countries like Nigeria, have contributed to Ukraine, especially around education, and why we need to take solid steps. I also heard the Bulgarian, I think a Bulgarian government official, whether it's the foreign minister, talk about how they were willing to take in Nigerian students on a special agreement, just Nigerian students from Ukraine. I don't know if you have any update on that, together with what is happening in the country with your work with the state governments.
Yes, that's very correct. Like I previously said, a lot of Nigerians were not aware of the reasons why students actually choose Ukraine among other countries to study. Their educational standard is very high. I'm also an alumni from university in Ukraine, and it's the standard of education there. It's not compared to none. It's as good as what you get in Harvard. I studied aircraft and rocket design engineering, and I'm a college professor in America. And if not for the knowledge I gained in Ukraine, I won't be able to be effective in what I do. I'm passing out knowledge to students. And yes, Bulgaria government have been very open, and they've been giving a lot of options. Now they're even in Netherlands as well, they are saying that they will allow some Nigerians, not some, they will not allow any Nigerian that moved from Ukraine to pay the same amount of school fees their citizens are paying. Because normally as an international student, when you go outside to study, you are paid you pay a different fee than the permanent resident or the citizen of that country. And they are saying due to the war, they understand that a lot of students have paid school fees before the war, and they are going to give them an exception and also give them a 1-year chance. Some countries like Bulgaria, some of them are giving 18 months, which is a year plus, where students will be able to get their transcript. Like Tega was saying, a lot of the schools in Ukraine are saying you have to expel yourself. And when you expel yourself, it's not a good look when you have to apply for another school. And so that's why our organization FSNAid is there to assist them in the best way we can. Part of the money that the Delta State government got, we're going to be using it to see how to seek admission for this student. Although we are still in the talk process of getting funds for additional students, I also see how the government could be able to get a form of scholarship for them, if it's full scholarship or half scholarship. We're working our way through that. So there's been lots of an awareness, and the European, I'm very glad that the Ukrainian government are appreciating the fact that Nigerians have contributed greatly to their country despite negativity that we Nigerians and Africans in general.
The network is actually playing up. Blessed, and I have a couple of questions. So I think it's a lot better now. It was the first time I heard this morning from Tega that you would have to expel yourself to get your transcript. What is the FSNAid doing in that regard? Maybe you're working with governments across board to see if this is something that can be, handled. Because just as you said, it doesn't leave a good taste in the mouth.
Yes, you remember I said when the times of war like this, organizations and persons are not allowed to, they are speaking to government official of the other country. We have what we call mutual law, meaning that it has to be government to government discussion. It can't be government between government and individuals. And that's why it's so funny, even while FSNAid were going through our approval process, we went through a whole lot. We had people question why we are doing this, knowing full well it's for a good cause. And that's why we keep on calling on the Ministry of Education, Foreign Affairs to speak to Ukrainian government, because they are the best person to be able to do that. And also, when we talk about expel, it's a way of trying to tie the student down. It's a way of trying to keep them bound because they don't want to lose that money. Remember, the second source of revenue of Ukraine, just as oil is to Africa, to Nigeria, that is how education is to Ukraine. And you can imagine what the other countries around Ukraine are doing. So they are taking chances and saying, you know what, Ukrainians make a lot of money from education. Why can't we do the same thing? After all, we still practice the same Soviet Union system of teaching, because the educational system in Europe is very different from America. It's very even different from, even within Europe, the UK educational standards is different from the Soviet Union. So those who are in the Soviet Union have a style and a method of how they teach. Like medical students, every day they are required to do an exam. So it's not just going to class. They are writing a test every day. And over time, those tests are accumulated to give you a final score. In the UK, it's not like that. In America, it's not like that. So you see, they engage their students psychologically. As much as knowing how to write, they still capitalize on their ability to do a good practical work.
All right, excellent and very, very well done. We're going to have to leave it at that, Blessing Emuobosa. And go check out FSNAid and see what is happening there. A lot of stories and what you can do to also improve the lives of Nigerians. It's very, very, very brilliant work.